Well, hi there everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. I am showing you today the amazing, the incomparable, and really lovely Necchi Supernova Ultra, a machine from circa 1959, probably 1960, 61 if I'm correct. And today I am going to be doing some test stitching on the machine. I do this with all the machines that I rescue and restore. And when I have a machine that belongs to a client of mine, which is true in this case, then I do the same thing. I go through the same procedures, and I also like to give the machine a chance to do its thing and show me what it can do. Now I have the machine set here on 0, and that's the zigzag. Okay. Now the length of the stitch is 4, which is the longest stitch length on this machine. But on zigzag, I have it on 0, and I've gone in and snugged these thumb screws to make sure that it only does zigzag. This is needle position. Oh yes, they were full of luxury features at the time. And I have it on the center. That's where most sewing is done. And I have, let's see, I have a fabric remnant here. This is I think it was a part of a pillowcase. It's navy. It's relatively lightweight cotton, and I'm going to, I think I'll fold it over and I'll do 4 layers, right? 4 layers is not a lot for a Necchi, and this again is a fairly lightweight fabric. So I'm going to basically just do some quick checking. I want to see what the machine is doing, how it's thinking. Do I need to adjust any of my tensions? That's not automatically the case, but the great thing about testing your machine, and really all of you who, if you're new to sewing in particular, when you go to set your machine up and you're getting ready to sew a project, before you do so, it's not a bad idea, especially if you've replaced your top thread or any of your thread, bobbin or spools. Do a test run with your machine. Let it, let's just see what it's interested in doing before you put your lovely and sometimes quite costly fabric down to start sewing. Those of you who are experienced sewers will likely know this, but I sometimes try to remember those viewers I have who are just new to sewing. All right, so I have this machine comes with a light. That is the original light. It's, it is what it is. I have ordered a new light bulb for the client. It may or may not add that much light, but in any case, let's see here. So I'm going to give a little light holding of the thread tails here. We'll see what it is interested in doing. Interesting. Well, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. So we'll have to see what it might be missing. Okay, so I took a look at the machine, and apparently the switches were off. So if you turn the light off, right, it doesn't do. With the light on, then it is ready to sew. Now, I'm not aware that that was true of Necchi's. The owner of this machine purchased it from somewhere, and at some point it was rewired, not by myself. So it could be that it was rewired in such a way that both the light needs to be on. Let's see if it does that. Okay, so you can control the motor with what's called min or max. Max would be for, believe it or not, normal sewing. But with the light, when the light is off, I'll have to go back and look and see if Necchi designed it this way. I know that a number of the 1970s Kenmores that you've seen me do videos on, they often do not, they were designed not to come on unless you have the light on, whether you need the light or not. So, all right, let's move forward. Nice slow needle control. I'm going to zoom in here for you all so you can see what the machine is doing. Maybe give you a little bit better view of the stitches. Has a nice sound. Now, one of the things you'll notice, and I've mentioned this in earlier videos, when you've gone through an overhaul of a machine, don't be surprised if you see a little bit of sewing machine oil coming through, and that's pretty common, right? So you don't want to start a new project and to let the machine work out some of that extra oil. You should not have that in normal sewing machine oil maintenance, but for a restoration such as this, that is fairly common. And we'll check the reverse. Works lovely. So far, and I'm going to zoom in here for you guys. Let's get even closer. I really want you to see the stitch that we are getting here. Let's turn the light off for a moment. It might actually show up a little bit better for you. This is the top thread, and that is a very straight stitch, very nicely balanced. Okay, and right now I'm on the tension on the tension dial is like 2 1/4, 2 1/2. Now when I turn the fabric over, the bobbin thread is black. Okay, so it doesn't show up quite as well as the green, but if you look closely, look at the bottom stitch. It is very nicely balanced. It's not overly tight. It is consistent. That's a lovely stitch. One of the reasons people love Necchis. And what you will see over here, you'll see something that looks a little heavier. That's where I just did the reverse, so it will look a little different. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over. Oh, go. We'll come over and get our fabric turned around here. And now I'm going to shorten the stitch and see how we're still on straight stitch here. So we'll go down to, we're not going down to 0. Let's go to 2, see what it does. And that's me. The reason it's slowing down, it's not the fabric. I'm doing this, slowing it down, just seeing how it does. And then it can sew much faster, obviously. So we'll bring it further down and we'll swing the fabric around and let's see what it did with those short stitches. Now, I have mentioned in past videos, I've talked to you all about one of the great things of rotary hook mechanisms, or rotary shuttle and hook mechanisms on machines like the infamous Singer Featherweight, the Singer 301, the Singer 201, and there were many machines that used rotary hooks. The rotary hook typically gives you one of the straightest, most consistent, smooth stitches you will ever see in a domestic machine. But that's not universally true because there are companies that used oscillating hooks. Bernina out of Switzerland, Necchi out of Italy. I mean, look at this. Look at the stitch quality. If I can get it in the camera for you. That's pretty incredible. And that's an oscillating hook, right? That is an oscillating hook. Just like, I've described before with class 15 sewing machines. All right, I'm going to get us on another runway here on the fabric. And we'll just get our light back on. We'll get over enough to get a sort of a clear space, and then we'll take a look at Zigzag and see what it will produce for us as a zigzagger. Okay. For those of you new to this machine, let's see what we've got here. Let's come back up and I'll show you. Any of you who are used to computerized machines, don't let analog machines intimidate you. In fact, it may surprise you how simple they are to operate. You know, yes, with modern machines, you often push a button with an icon on it that says do this. But this is not that hard. Okay, now we're going to leave our needle. Whoops, come here. We're going to leave. I pushed down on this, and of course it's spring loaded. That's why it swung over to the left. It was actually designed to do that, so there's nothing wrong with it. So our needle position will stay in the center. Now, right now, and by the way, if you ever have one of these machines and you're trying to move your zigzag lever and it's resisting you, do not force it. Now, it could be that it's stuck from old oil, but in this case, no, it is set that way because I'm loosening, don't take it all the way off, but I'm loosening. Do you guys see? I'll zoom in for you. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the mechanism. It's beautiful in its simplicity. So I was over here. I want you to notice very closely when I slide this button over, because I loosened it, do you see this piece that's moving? This is chrome and this is black. It's very small. It's not the easiest thing in the world to notice. Maybe if I turn it in the light, that might help you guys, right? So watch here. Watch when I push this back. Okay, you see it sliding? That's like a sort of a mechanism that locks in, right, your zigzagger. So if I snug the thumb screw down, right, then the zigzag lever is not moving. There's a spring that you can pull against, but not when this is set. Be very gentle here. These thumb screws have been here since 1960. They work beautifully, okay? So be gentle. Don't over tighten them. Now I've loosened this one. Now I'm going to come all the way over to the right, okay? And then I'm going to snug it back so it doesn't wiggle around, right? So it'll stay put. Do not over tighten this. This is 1960-61 plastic. It was well designed. Do not go cranking hard on it. Be mindful, okay? Now on this side, I am going to change this. Now this is spring loaded. Oh, by the way, whoops, I just reminded myself something that I was going to remind you all of. The needle is down in the fabric. There is no computer that's going to lift this needle up for you when the machine stops sewing. Many of you who have new machines know this. So I'm going to turn my hand wheel toward me, and I brought my needle up out of the fabric, okay? That will be a good thing because you'll notice your fabric start to move on you if you have the needle down and you're trying to adjust your zigzag. Sorry, again, there's no software here, but that's okay. Now, so I've moved over this little piece, right? Remember, it's very small. Looks like a peppercorn, or looks like a little rectangular peppercorn. Okay, and I've gotten this thumb screw that controls this one over here. It's now snugged. It's going to stay put. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you. Now I've got the full width of my zigzag. Okay, now this is spring loaded, and then I'm going to loosen this, and it didn't take but not even a full turn. I have now loosened this one here. Remember what I just showed you? Well, we've got another one on this side. Grabbing my pointer here. I zoomed in so far. We went too far down. Okay, so look right there, everyone. You see that? Now watch. When I move the knob with my fat thumb here, watch that piece move. You see it moving across? Looks like a little bug. It's not, thankfully. All right, what am I doing? Then I'm going to take, and I'm going to gently but securely snug up this screw. And what does that do? That holds the zigzag lever in place. Now, it is now set to 5, which means that's the widest zigzag the machine will make. And in 1960, it was one of the widest zigzags you could get. I mean, later machines, they would lengthen stitches and widen them, but we're splitting hairs there. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to let the machine work a zigzag stitch. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the long. I always like to start my test stitching on long lengths. It's easier for me to see what the machine's doing, and it's easier for you to see it, especially when I'm trying to show those stitches in a video. So let's see what it will do with his zigzag. And the speeding up and slowing down, that's me, that's my foot. The machine is not hesitating. I'm basically giving the machine a chance to slow down, right? Once you get used to a machine, if you're like the owner, when the owner sews on it, you eventually get a feel for that machine and how it's supposed to operate. All right, now, before we go and look at it, I'm going to come over just a bit and I'm going to show you a zigzag stitch. We'll keep it wide, and when we keep it wide, however, I am going to change my length of the zigzag stitch. The width is the same, but we're going to come down here, and we're not going to do 0. We're going to do, let's start with 1.5, okay? Now, let's see. One of the things you'll notice is that when you are sewing a shorter stitch, your fabric should still feed, but much more slowly. If your fabric is not moving at all, you need to stop, because you either have set it too short, like at 0, and you're going to end up with a giant ball of thread and mess you don't want. Okay, alrighty. Now, I'm going to come forward again, same width, but we're going to have a much shorter zigzag stitch. Now I'm going to shorten it even more. I'm going to come over, and just remember, when you're doing this, this is not digital, okay? So we gotta basically, I have a half 0.5, and I'm going to look very closely at my fabric, and if it's not moving enough, I'm going to stop, because I really don't want to have to clean up a thread nest. The machine will survive it, but you know, I'd like to be able to. I'm going to do this slowly. When you're sewing very short zigzag or very short stitches generally, I'm slowing down. I'm only going to sew at a certain rate. I know the machine can go faster, but remember what you're asking these stitches to do. You're trying to form a stitch, right? Now I'm going to go in reverse, because yes, you can. You can lock in a zigzag stitch like you can any other. I swear to you, you know, this machine, everyone, it is in a case. It doesn't even have the benefit of being in a table. And what I mean by that is, when a machine is anchored in something, that helps absorb some of the vibration. This machine is in a case, and it is on top of what is essentially a fold-up card table that I'm using to set the machine on here. So there's plenty of opportunity for this machine to be hopping around, and it's not. It is magnificently quiet, and there's almost no vibration. That is what Necchi's engineers were so good at. They were geniuses at it. And that's why when a Necchi sits for a long period, it can be difficult to get it moving. So this machine needed help. It needed overhauling. It needed for me to go through it fully, like I do all of my machines. But fortunately, you know, we didn't have to break out the rubber mallet or whatever to get things, you know, completely unstuck. So that is some really good news. So the owner, when the owner got this machine, I don't even know if they realized, you know, because you look at it, it looks great. It looks like it's in great shape. I have had machines this beautiful. If you remember the white and gray Foff that I restored years ago, oh boy, it looked gorgeous. And it took me, what was it, 3 weeks of just brutal labor trying to unstick it, because on the inside it was frozen. All right, are you folks ready? I want to take a look and see what this machine has given us. All right, you saw in fact, let me set this down so I'm not wiggling the fabric around, and I'll get this, we'll look straight down at the fabric so we can take a look at what put Necchi on the map, okay? All right, let me zoom. We're going to zoom in on these stitches. All right, here is the original right? Here's the original row that I made, long, length, straight, and then I shortened it down to, what did I say, 2, and we did a shorter. This is one of the most consistent straight stitches you will ever see on an oscillating machine. The only thing I've ever seen straighter and by a hair are, again, things like the Singer 201s and the 301s. But we're splitting microscopic hairs here, okay? Now, then I switched over. Remember, I came around, and when I came around, I said, okay, I lifted the needle up so the fabric doesn't wiggle, and I set it up for zigzag. And the zigzag comes down. This is the longest, widest zigzag. And actually, I'll slide the fabric down for you guys. And you can see, then I came back, turned around, and I shortened the zigzag, right? So the same width, but now the stitches are closer together, obviously, as you shorten them. And then I came here. I could have shortened it a little bit more, just a hair more, because once you get into the red zone on the dial, as I don't know if you guys saw that, when you're on the dial, right? Here's the half, here's all the way, here's 4. And when you turn this, you'll see the reverse button start to come out at you. That's normal, it's supposed to. That was the longest, right? Then I went down to 2, I think it was 2 for my first shorter zigzag. And then I came down to, there's 1.5, there's 1, and there's 1/2. Many machine companies at the time didn't even offer this. Now, once you get below that, you get into red, and that's 0. The red is saying, hey, you don't want to go any further than this, because again, you don't want to sew a giant ball of stitches on top of fabric. You end up with a mess. Now, if you go into that red area, but you got to be careful, and I don't really want to create a mess here. You can get what is often referred to as a satin stitch, and it's called that because when the stitches are so close together, it looks like a satin ribbon. It is incredible. And it's not just how close the stitches are. And by the way, you see this area here? That's where I did the reverse. Look at that. Look at that. That is what, if you go into the red area, that is what you have the potential to do. You want to make sure you're not using really, really thick thread, but look at this. This is extraordinary, okay? And those of you who sew, and especially those of you who do any decorative sewing, you may think, this should probably impress you. Not me, but this machine, it impresses me. It just is an incredible thing. I mean, the consistency is there, and if I turn it over, we'll see, you see all of the other side. Now remember, what you see here is when you come along, you are going to see something. Now, normally you see the black. The reason I'm showing you, you see tiny little dots. The stitch is actually well balanced. The reason you see this is that when you shorten that zigzag and you get it really short and satiny, the machine is really reaching its mechanical limits of what it can do quickly and closely without having some overlap. Okay, so if you're going to do a satin stitch in green, you do it on this side, right? Because you don't see any of the black here, okay? On this side, you might see some. A little bit is okay. If you start to see big swaths of green here, what would that tell you? It would tell you that the tension on the bobbin case might need to be loosened. But I'm not going to do that initially, because if you notice, look, when you look at the other stitches, which is easier if I zoom back out for you, okay, notice all of the other stitches. They're beautifully balanced, and you see just a micro dot, right? Because that's where the two threads, the top and the bottom, have interchanged. This is balanced, okay? That tiny little speck is not unusual. And the same thing happens down here and then down here again when I shortened it. So you'll notice it's not until I get into the really really short, where you start to see more of that green. And again, the fact that this machine can even do what it's doing, I'll zoom in really close so you can get an idea of what I'm saying. that is a very amazing thing to do. The fact that the machine can do it at all and is incredible, and it is due in part to what I showed you in one of the earlier. I've made quite a few videos on this machine. It's turned out to be wonderful. And what I may have mentioned to you all is that this machine was designed so that when the needle is moving side to side, most zigzag machines, that's what they do, excuse me, and the shuttle is rotating, right? And it's not moving side to side, but Necchi's is, because the drive shaft underneath, as I've shown all of you, and if you go back and watch some of the other videos where I'm showing you where I'm underneath the machine and I'm oiling it, I demonstrated this for you when I took the zigzag lever, and oh my goodness, the drive shaft that holds the entire shuttle, hook, and bobbin case, it moves side to side in sync with the needle. And that is part of the magic of what gives you such incredibly accurate and precise zigzag stitches on a machine that is entirely electromechanical. It is just amazing. And I don't sew garments, and even I appreciate it. Those of you who sew, whether you've ever sewn on a Necchi or not, please keep in mind as well, oops, that's not what I wanted. Please keep in mind that any zigzag vintage machine can do a really good job with zigzag. You can adjust your machine and you can get some fantastic zigzag stitches. And so don't feel like you can't do it because you don't own a Necchi. That's not the point of this. Necchi engineered and introduced zigzag to the market, and it really took off. They weren't the first company to create zigzag. Zigzag had been around for a very long time in industrial machines, and a few companies had tried zigzag in their machines, but Necchi kind of nailed it. And when they did, it's one of the things that helped put them on the map. And in the 1950s, labor in Italy was not nearly as costly as it would be today. So they were able to produce what I consider one of the finest machines. The main thing you want to remember, and it's probably why some earlier person, whoever that was, rewired this machine, is that Italian machines are incredibly engineered, but all vintage machines should have. You should always check out your wiring and make sure that that is okay and in a good shape. And this one was rewired. I can tell this is not the original wire that they had. They have the plug and we have the foot pedal, but there's nothing wrong with having it done because you definitely want the insulation and your wires to be intact, right? So that's true of any machine that you'll ever get a hold of, or any device for that matter. You get an old blender, old toaster, the same thing applies. Just use common sense. If you inspect it and it doesn't look like it's in the greatest of shape, or it's dry rotted cords, you need to have that rewired by someone who can do it for you, unless you are qualified to do that yourself. But once you have that done, then you are in a position to really use devices that are just incredible. And if you have a new machine and you love working with that new machine, well, that's fantastic, because many sewers do. Not all of you, but some of you have new machines and they're very important to you. And I do not service those machines for a host of reasons I've mentioned before in my channel. And many of the places where you might take a new machine for whatever service they offer, they don't work on the vintage models. And so I and others like myself, maybe you, if you've been inspired to take this on as a hobby, we need to we need more of us out there to make sure that these machines are salvaged, because they really need to run and be brought back to life. They need to be woken up so that they don't end up in a landfill. I don't even want to think about how many didn't survive. But this one, this Supernova Ultra, I'm tripping over my words. I love this machine so much. It is a thing to behold. And if you don't have one, maybe you have your own machine that you love. Maybe you don't, you love it for a different reason. This is not mine. This was not my mother's machine, but maybe you have one that was been in your family, or your grandmother, or your grandfather for that matter. Whatever the reason, always remember that whatever machine you have, whatever brand, whatever model, if it's from a time when they built things well and you like the way it sews, then you can be just as proud of your machine as the owner is of this one. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting this channel. Please remember to subscribe, and please consider donating through Buy Me a Coffee to support my efforts here. I so appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next video, whatever that topic may be.